This film is for union members and about union members. These are union members: a steel worker, a baker, an office worker, a plumber, a bricklayer, a telephone worker. This film is addressed to them and to you. A challenge faces you and your union. It can affect your job, your future, and your family's well-being. It is a quiet challenge. No violence is involved. No blood will be spilled. Yet, it is a serious challenge, one that must be met and conquered. It is a political challenge. It began in the political arena. In the political arena, it will be met. 1968, Labor's Year of Challenge. It was here at the polls that it began. November 8, 1966. On that day, a heavy toll was taken of Labor's friends in Congress. The statistics of November 8, 1966 speak for themselves. In the United States House of Representatives, a loss of 41 liberals. The great liberal majority elected in 1964 wiped out. In the United States Senate, a net loss of 3 liberals, still in friendly hands but under siege in 1968. And in the 90th Congress, the swift pace of social progress stopped cold. Education bills stalled. War on poverty de-escalated. Resurgent conservatives in Congress tested their strength and brought a halt to progress on one legislative front after another. And with this, a gathering storm for trade unions and the members they represent. The threat of new anti-labor legislation for unions. Bills being promoted in Congress for months, dovetailed with grassroots meetings of union enemies. These are the warning signs. Not a threat, perhaps, so long as Labor's friends are in a majority in Congress. So long as there is a friend of Labor in the White House. But a great threat to Labor with a conservative majority in Congress, and without a friend in the White House. Bills devised by anti-labor lawyers, by the Chamber of Commerce and the National Association of Manufacturers, being circulated quietly throughout the country and in the lobbies of Congress. The cover story is that labor law needs reform, that it's necessary to curb the power of labor, that the administration is soft on labor, and in workshops around the country, plans to get the unions are being perfected. And always the pet projects of the right-wing extremists who still want to see unions bound hand and foot, rendered helpless. What are these bills? How would they work? And how would they affect our unions? This is a bill introduced in the United States House of Representatives, first session, 90th Congress, January 10th, 1967, by Congressman Martin, Republican of Nebraska. It reads, H.R. 333, a bill to prevent the application or exercise of monopoly power by employers and labor organizations in employing or representing labor. In the language peculiar to Congress, mild enough and fair enough, or so it sounds. But when you cross the language barrier, if you are Joe Smith, worker, it hits close to home and it hits hard. It outlaws industry-wide bargaining. It forces your local union to bargain with the giants of industry without the resources, the support, and the know-how of your international union. And that's a mismatch. Wage, pensions, insurance, the grievance procedure, all will suffer. If you are Fred Jones, skilled tradesman, you get it in the neck too. It undermines your job, your trade standards, and your union by opening up the construction trades to a flood of non-union labor. Another threat, S-1353, introduced in the United States Senate, first session, 90th Congress, March 21st, 1967, by Senator Griffin, Republican of Michigan, and co-sponsored by 7 colleagues. A bill to amend Title 28 of the United States Code, Judiciary and Judicial Procedure, and incorporate therein provisions relating to the United States Labor Court. A United States Labor Court. There's a ring of fairness to it. Trained judges, impartial, making decisions on the merits of cases brought before them. But there's a hooker. The price we pay for a labor court is wiping out the National Labor Relations Board. The plan behind the labor court is simple and ominous. This is how the script reads. 15 judges will be appointed to serve 20-year terms. They will be appointed by a conservative president and approved by a conservative Senate. There could be just one result: years of turmoil and trouble for the labor movement, a long step backwards. Other bills are making the rounds in Congress even now, quietly gaining support, awaiting only a conservative takeover in 1968. S-1744, introduced by Senator Thurmond, Republican of South Carolina, May 10, 1967. A bill to limit and prevent certain concerted activities by labor organizations which interfere with or obstruct or impede the free production of goods for commerce or the free flow thereof in commerce. Translation: multi-union bargaining will be outlawed. No longer can a group of unions with the same employer band together in coordinated bargaining efforts. They will again, as in the past, pick them off one by one. This one carries a high price. It can be measured in terms of hard cash. Before multi-union bargaining in the electrical industry, for instance, workers' wages and fringe benefits in recent years increased only 6 cents an hour annually, while workers in other industries were winning 10 to 14 cent an hour annual increases. After multi-union bargaining in the electrical industry, wages and fringe benefits up twice what previous contracts provided. Cost of living escalators established, inequities adjusted, vastly improved pension, insurance, and vacation clauses. No wonder workers want multi-union bargaining, and no wonder the congressional conservatives and their employer group allies seek to smash it. An amendment to S-1880, introduced by Senator John J. Williams, Republican of Delaware, August 23, 1967, to revise the federal election laws and for other purposes. The target, the AFL-CIO Committee on Political Education. The impact, prohibit COPE from collecting funds voluntarily contributed by union members and from distributing such funds to candidates for federal office. The consequence, shut off a vital source of campaign funds for liberal candidates. Leave untouched the source of funds for conservative candidates. There are other proposals. Compulsory arbitration to force free men and women to work against their will for wages they have declared and know to be inadequate. Card checks and other informal means of determining whether a union is the choice of a majority of employees in a bargaining unit prohibited. A federal open shop law banning in all 50 states union security agreements. A return to the open shop. These are the bills. They are aimed at you and your unions. Behind the fog of language, they have one purpose only: to weaken working people in their relations with employers. What are their chances? Here are the figures. The United States House of Representatives has 435 members. Present balance on labor matters, only 180 certain liberal votes, an additional 40 possible votes that might be counted on to prevent passage of these bills. But what if we lose? What if conservatives win 20 or 25 seats in 1968? H.R. 333 by Mr. Martin, Republican of Nebraska, a bill to bring unions under the antitrust laws. Needed for passage, just 20 to 25 more votes in the U.S. House in 1969. S-1744, proposed by Senator Thurmond, Republican of South Carolina, to outlaw coordinated multi-union bargaining. Needed for passage, just 20 to 25 more votes. The other proposals, compulsory arbitration, card check prohibition, a federal open shop, all are in the range of passage with addition of 25 or fewer conservative votes in 1968 elections. Are those 25 new conservative votes possible? Every forecast says yes, they are possible. While polls do not determine elections, they do anticipate them. And the polls are foreboding for liberals. While the headlines do not determine elections, they suggest directions. And the headlines are foreboding for liberals. But there's more at stake in the 1968 elections than the Congress. There's the White House. That's the big prize. With a conservative president in command, every single anti-union proposal we've discussed becomes more possible. And that would be a mere beginning. Every mark of social progress chalked up in the past few years would be brought to a halt. For every hard-won forward step, 2 backward steps. No more searching for solutions to our problems. No more trying to help the people of our nation and the world. But if we stop them in their drive for the Congress and the presidency, new steps forward, new energy in our march to security, dignity, equality, and freedom. One fact is clear. The challenge is entirely political in nature. It can be met head-on only by a political response of unprecedented energy and imagination. You union staff members, are you working with COPE? Are you generating action among the members you serve? Are you making political action a priority commitment for 1968? You union members, are you working with COPE in your communities? Are you already at work for the 1968 elections? Will you help get every member registered and to the polls? Will you spread the word to your union brothers and sisters that the challenge in 1968 is for real? We can win if we have the will to win, and if we work to win. In the face of challenge, we have won before. Our unions were born in challenge. In challenge, they have survived. Despite challenge, they have grown strong. Once again, we confront a challenge of the first magnitude. Its outcome will not be decided on the picket line, or at the bargaining table, or by union convention resolutions, or at union meetings. It will be resolved in one place only, here at the polls next November 5th. This film was addressed to union men and women. You are in a battle that threatens you and your union. It threatens your job, your future, your family's well-being. It is a political battle. It began in the political arena, and in the political arena, it will be settled. Will you meet the challenge? Will you help keep your nation moving ahead? Your answer must be yes.